That's not a comic book. Now that's a comic book.
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Comic Reviews. I'm Part2, and I need to apologize for those that like to come live for, not giving a ton of notice. I'm finding that harder to do, and so these might just become more and more impromptu. For a while I was trying to give a lot of notice and make a GIF and stuff, but I'm just noticing I have less time in the night, and I'd rather just get the video done and up and let it be, something that's certainly accessible. I don't think I do a ton that requires you to be here live. And I, of course, didn't used to do comic reviews live at all, but I just, scheduling and stuff, it's looking more just like a, hey, I'm going to be live in 5-10 minutes, and that's about the best I can manage, so apologies. Anyway, tonight on Comic Reviews, we'll be discussing Black Hammer, Age of Doom, number 10. It came out on a Wednesday, number 6. Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, number 6. Wonder Woman, number 70. And The Flash, number 70. I did it. As well as for Trade Talk, we'll be discussing Super Sons The Polarshield project. So we will get into just a ton of stuff tonight. Anyway, let's go ahead and start out with Black Hammer, Age of Doom, number 10. So I've been reading Black Hammer 45 a lot lately. It seems we've gotten a couple of issues of that in recent months. And this book seemed like it was on a bit of a hiatus, but now it's back. And I gotta say, it still really has me. There's a lot of weird stuff going on. This does a great job of doing the really heady comic book commentary, comic book industry commentary, as well as some social stuff. That a lot of 90s and late 80s comics were known for, your Grant Morrisons, your Neil Gaimans, your Alan Moores. But it's also doing, it is very much trying to sell itself, since it's created this whole universe that's kind of independently popular and not tied to the big two comic companies. So it is really doing a lot for branding and doing some of your typical comic book branding things, like cliffhanger issues and the plot getting kind of bigger and bigger and a little out of hand, but in a fun, kind of cool and whoa way. And so I'm really appreciating it for that. Still got the same artist on here. Dean Ormstrom's back. Because I believe Dave Stewart stepped in and did the art for a couple issues, and it was not as good, if I'm remembering correctly there. But we got the main artist back on the book, and so it's got that same feel, which is really good. And this issue is pretty much just about Lucy. Yeah. I can never remember her name. This whole issue is pretty much about Lucy just going to the other members of the book, the team, and kind of getting them to jog their memories about this false reality they're living in. And she does that by hitting them on the head with a hammer. It's kind of interesting. So, I don't know, stuff like that's going on. It's kind of cool, kind of interesting. Generally speaking, I really like where this book is going, and it's got just these really interesting, heartfelt moments. They go to get Golden Gale, and the thing about Gale is she's kind of a reverse Captain Marvel, where she says a magic word, and she's given all these superpowers, but she's in the body of a little girl. But really, she's an old woman. And she's been in this reality, this false reality they're in. She's been away from her powers for so long that she's living in a wheelchair in a home and is almost catatonic. And so it's just a really interesting moment. It's this kind of like heartfelt thing where they have absolutely no way how to deal with or handle it, and it's just a very emotional moment. So I really like that. And then they go to Mars and they pick up Barbalian and just all this stuff's going on because it looks like Anti-God is coming back. But just when the whole team gets back together, Lucy disappears, and there's her father sitting on the cosmic throne that he once appeared before. And so it's like, whoa, what's going on? That's like such a crazy twist, and it's got that level of for lack of a better term, it's got that Captain America saying "Hail Hydra," shock to it. It's much more deserved and not insulting to the characters here. But yeah, it's kind of interesting. So it's got that shock to it, but it does feel more deserved. So it's got just a very classic kind of fun comic book feel to it, and so I really appreciate it for that. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and move right along. Oh, come on! It's got all these trades I gotta put away from Free Comic Day. Alright, next we have It Came Out on a Wednesday, number 6. I really don't know what to think of this book. Oddly enough, this was really only worth it for one story. I don't know, I'll take that back. There were 2 stories in here I actually liked. But the problem is, I already read the one. I had to think about it because there's this story in here where these kids are catching lightning bugs, and then they get the older brother kind of goes into the woods chasing the bugs, and then he gets trapped in the woods and gets killed by this freaky looking tree monster thing. And yeah, it's a really, really good story. And I remember it because I read it like 2 issues ago, or maybe just 1 issue ago. And I remembered my complaint. This is not formatted correctly. The pages got put out of order. It was printed incorrectly, which is unfortunate. And so I guess I understand why they reprinted it here. But this is a book that comes out, I think, once every other month. It seems like you missed your window of opportunity. I don't really know what to say. Like, it's a good story and everything, and so it's certainly disappointing that it wasn't published correctly. But just as someone that's sitting here reading it week to week, or month to month rather, it's just kind of underwhelming now that I'm paying for the thing I already read. That actually got to me. We also have another story. It is called Pinch the Tail and Suck the Head. And it's about like a good old boy and a sheriff going through the bayou, and the good old boy has found an alligator that's been eaten alive or ripped up from the inside or something, like in that movie Aliens. And then the sheriff says, "I reckon making me come out here ain't the dumbest thing you've ever done. So what do we do now?" "Well, I reckon I'll probably call a ranger out to haul off the dead gator and the coroner for the body." "Body? Sheriff, what are you talking about?" And then like the sheriff turns around and he's like this weird insectoid monster and kills the good old boy. And then the story goes on from there. So I really like that story. That was cool. But like that was the meat of the book for me. I'd already read the other story, the other standalone story in here. We've got this ongoing thing called Legends of Log, or The Log. Legends of Log. Okay. And it's fine, but it's just... I don't think it's the kind of material they should be putting in this book, to be perfectly honest. Then there's this short little one-page comic called Modern Lumberjack. And it's fun, it's fine, I got a laugh out of it, kind of, but it's just... It doesn't feel like the right kind of format. I really feel like editorial is just almost desperate for content. So then I've got that. I've got the reprinted story. This Mr. Crypt thing does absolutely nothing for me every time. I've yet to actually get a laugh out of any of those stories. And then we've got, the reprinted. We've got Helgorithm, which is another ongoing thing that's kind of interesting, but I kind of feel bored by. That and the art's just very hard to discern what's happening on some of these pages. Like that one took me a minute. This panel down here took me a hard minute to figure out what was going on. And that's, I don't mean to shit on the artist or anything, but it's almost too much detail and not enough precision and clarity in that detail, so it just kind of looks like a mess almost. I just had a really hard time discerning what was going on, so this story didn't do much for me. And it's a good chunk of the book too, and that's the end of it. And it's like, I feel bad because it is obviously a very small publisher, and they're putting the book out for $2. That's really not too bad, but there's a real lack of really good content in the book. And so I hate to say it, but I feel like I've got to drop this. It's a really cool idea, really fun idea, something I think we need more of in the comics industry, but I feel like editorial needs to be a lot stricter on what they're going to put in it. Sometimes it does feel like they're just reaching for content to put in here, whether or not it really fits with what my mind the book should be, but just generally with what I want to see in the book, I guess. I don't know. It's maybe I have competing vision based on just how my first couple experiences went. Akuma Ranger is in the live comments, and he says, "It doesn't help that short stories are either hit or misses, which makes these anthologies ongoings a hard sell in building continuous fan base." That is very true. And, that's the thing for me. I can usually write out, in an anthology kind of thing, I can write out an issue that I don't like. But I'm really thinking here, and I feel like I've had the same complaints week to week, where there'll be one good or just kind of okay story per book, but then there'll be some other kind of problem with the book or something, or just a bunch of stuff that I'm not interested in, or stuff that feels like it's more like people that have their own comic they want me to go buy, and so they're putting essentially a preview of it in this. And I'm not there for that. I understand the strategy. I respect the hustle, but I don't want to pay $2 for a commercial for comics that I could be reading for probably $2. That's just, I'm not about that. So I hate to say it. Literally one of the best titles of all time for a comic book, though. I have to give them that. Alrighty, let's go ahead and move on and talk about Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man number 6, Introducing Spider-Bite. This is a great book. This is everything that I want in a Marvel comic that Marvel Comics are just so not into. It's kind of funny. This is a standalone story. You don't have to read literally nothing in this series yet is any. You don't have to read anything in this series to enjoy this issue. This is just a really, really nice, really sweet Spider-Man story. So we start off with Dr. Octopus, having defeated Spider-Man on the Brooklyn Bridge, the Manhattan Bridge, my bad. When Spider-Bite shows up, who's not 8 years old, 9.5, and he takes a lot of offense to it. And he takes out Dr. Ock, and starts hitting him with his own arms in order to protect Spider-Man, saying, "Stop hitting yourself, stop hitting yourself." But then the Vulture comes and saves Doc Ock, and they run away on the train. And Spider-Man needs help from Spider-Bite to get out from under this wreckage he's been pinned. And they lift it together and then go chase the villains and run into them and have to chase them off the train. And then it's like, oh no, the Sinister Six. But then Green Goblin says, no, it's the Sinister 60. And we got literally every Spider-Man villain and people who aren't even really Spider-Man villains proper. Fucking Juggernaut's back there. Mephisto. I get Spider-Man obviously has history with Mephisto, but he's not really a Spider-Man villain when you think about it. All kinds of craziness going on in the background here. So yeah, the Sinister 60 and Spider-Man and Spider-Bite have to fight him off, and then the MacGuffin is taken by the true mastermind behind everything, the evilest of them all, Stiltman. And so our heroes chase him down and capture Stiltman and get the box, which turns out is a Spider-Man action figure. And Peter's talking to this kid, and he's like, yeah, I do collect my own action figures, but don't tell anyone. And then the kid coughs, and Spider-Man's like, all right, I think you can take the mask off now. He's like, what about my secret identity? And Spider-Man says, it's all right. We saved the whole world. I think that's enough adventure. And then you realize Peter's been playing with a kid in a hospital, and they've been getting help from a bunch of the staff members and stuff. And it's just Spider-Man doing a really nice thing for a sick kid, trying to make the kid feel better. And then they go off, swinging through New York, because, his day's not over yet. And that's just such a great story. That is such a superhero story in my book. Your big save the day, save the city stuff, that can be fun and cool and all. But it's issues of comics like this that have so much heart to them, and yeah, it's probably cliche, it's a sick kid, I'm old, I need this shit in my miserable life, you fucks. You young fucks that say shit like that. I was you, I remember. But no, this is just so enjoyable and just pleasant, that it's a feel good, it's a really good feel good comic. So if you're out there and you're looking for a nice standalone Spider-Man comic, go get Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man number 6. I feel like I want to go buy a couple issues of this and just give it away somewhere, just leave it in different places for people to find. Such a good story. So to my sensibilities of comics, Marvel never does that shit with just a standalone story. or at least not as much by comparison to DC. So I really did appreciate that. Excuse me, I'm sorry. I know this is disgusting, but so is snot dripping from my nose. Okay. Good issue. Let's go ahead and move along and talk about Wonder Woman number 70. G. Wilson continues to just tell really good stories. So Wonder Woman in her quest has come across the child of Aphrodite, who is the god of desire and has no gender, which I think is really cool to play with that idea in this day and age. What's her name? Atlantiades. Atlantides? I'm just going to go with the God of Desire. So, yeah, they are neither male nor female, but are attractive to all. Wonder Woman's companion, her mortal companion on this, immediately sees the god and says, "I love you, run away with me." And the god comes and says, "I will run away with you for an hour or so, but I must warn you, the rest of your life will seem pale, meaningless shadow afterwards." That's fair. She thirsty. That's pretty good. So yeah, Aphrodite's daughter, or child rather, the god of desire, has taken up a home in the suburbs and is just granting the people the ability to just express their desires openly and act on them immediately with wild abandon. And Wonder Woman's there, and it's almost a little conservative, which is an odd turn for Wonder Woman, where she's like, "That's fine, but you have to be able to exercise restraint on your desires, because otherwise shit goes crazy." And the god of desire is really not okay with that take, and says some relatively ominous shit. You may find you change your mind in this place. Not everything is as it seems. You may find you meet parts of yourself you don't recognize. And then, as soon as the god of desire flies away, Wonder Woman finds Steve Trevor just walking around the town, and Steve's instantly influenced by the magic and has a distracted boyfriend moment. And I lost my shit because that was fucking hilarious. I had to tweet about that. Oh, there's a total distracted boyfriend meme. Like, look at Wonder Woman's face. It's even like the girlfriend's face. Oh, poor Steve Trevor. Anyway. So, yeah, Steve's like kind of, immediately in the sway of the magic of the god of desire. And he can't help but voice something, which is that he's afraid he's going to get old and ugly and useless, and Wonder Woman's going to stay young forever. And that's something he really fears. And Wonder Woman fears it. And they immediately have this conversation that they've been putting off. And it's just like a really sad thing. And Steve kind of very quickly comes to the conclusion, maybe we're just kidding ourselves. Maybe we both need some distance. And he goes off to chase the girl that drew his eye. And Wonder Woman's almost immediately heartbroken by it, even though she understands that it's just because of the magic in the air, essentially, that he is swayed to it, and she is not. But quickly, the God of Desire comes and tells Wonder Woman, Lady Diana, you must know, especially under my dominion, that the hidden face of desire is fear. Fear of losing what you long for. Fear that the object of your desire does not desire you in return. Fear of the ravages that time metes out upon love. And fear, like desire, can make the imaginary real. And then we realized that Steve Trevor was just a manifestation of Diana's fears. And that the whole conversation never happened. It's just a conversation Wonder Woman's been too afraid to have with Steve. Because she's afraid of exactly what happened in that little situation happening to her. And I really like that. That's the moment, like, Wonder Woman's afraid of. That's the thing of losing those connections. We do not do nearly enough with Wonder Woman being immortal. I remember I just kind of randomly was doing an episode of the show one night, and I was like, oh, you know what would be a cool idea for like a Justice League story or a DC story is go like really, really far in the future and have Wonder Woman be still alive and still just as, you know, youthful, but be like thousands of years old and the leader of Justice League, you know, 1009 or whatever. That could be so cool to play with. I mean, we just don't take advantage of that enough. But man, I really like the way that this plays here. That it's very Doctor Who-esque almost, and I like how it feels. It's this very genuine fear that comes from a place of, here's a problem no actual human ever has to deal with, but we're going to frame it in such a way that everyone relates to it. And yeah, the wording that the God of Desire uses here, fear of losing what you long for, fear that the object of your desire does not desire you in return, fear of the ravages that time metes out upon love. I really like that. That was a really great moment. But then once Wonder Woman accepts this is her fear, suddenly the people that have been under Desire's sway show up, and they're angry because the responsibilities of life have caught up with them. This George character we met at the beginning of the last issue, whose wife left him for their babysitter, and who he was cheating on with a mistress of his own, is confronting Desire, and she says, George, what is this nonsense? Go home and sport with your mistress. She left me when my wife ran off with our babysitter. Said she never signed up to be a nanny to two sad kids. And what about my house? Cleaning my house doesn't fill me with joy, but now the sink is backed up and there's a mummified hairball behind the couch where the cat puked. I got fired from my job, but now I'm broke. I decided I wasn't in love with my therapist after all, and now she's mad at me. I like that. Yeah, it's like this is such a great, not centrist, not conservative, not leftist, but just realist view on there's nothing. All right, so like the typical conservative or Christian thing is, oh, you can't act on your desires because they're filthy and they're brought on by Satan, and if you act on your desires, you're sinning and you're going to go to hell. And that's bullshit. But at the same time, you can't have a fucking free will and hippie bullshit where it's like, oh man, we're all just going to do drugs and hang out all the time and fuck like crazy, no consequences. Because then nothing ever gets fucking done, you lazy bastards. So it's about like, yes, you can have desires, you can act on those desires, but you still have to be a fucking responsible individual in a society. And so it's like that really nice, like, there's a nice message here about moderation and taking responsibility for yourself, and that's a hard target to hit. And so I think doing that message with Wonder Woman is a cool idea. So yeah, I really like that, and wrapping it up, making it very personal for her too. I think this it's a nice, solid story. I like it. It's nice. It's short. It's to the point. It's good. Yeah. So anyways, that ends this one. Yeah, overall, really, really good. I'm liking the art in this arc a lot more. It just looks a lot better. I think this cover is super misleading, which is disappointing because I love word balloon covers. I miss, we don't do this nearly as often anymore, and I miss them. But that really is not the premise of what's in the book. It's not like Wonder Woman has any particular connection to this goddess or anything. Yeah. Arc's really good, though. I've just been enjoying it a lot more, this arc. The people look a lot better. I was disappointed because I really liked Giganta, and I was not in love with the art direction in that issue, or in those issues. Okay. Alright. I could not resist. I did it. Flash number 70. Year 1. Chapter 1. His origin starts here. They don't say. So when this got announced, I was like, really? Another Flash Barry Allen origin story? Do we really need this? And the answer is probably no. But can't lie, it's a pretty sick-ass cover. Look at that Flash on a mountain of running shoes. I kind of dug it. But at the same time, yeah, we probably don't need this. Like, it is not bad. There is nothing wrong with it. And I have to say, this first scene that the book opens up on did give me a lot of hope. So we start with Barry Allen as a child in his family's attic reading Jay Garrick Flash comics, and his mom comes in and sees that he's got a black eye and says, "You should have told me and your father if you were being picked on." And Barry says, "Well, I wasn't. Someone else was, and I just had to stand up for him." And that did give me, and indeed does give me, a lot of hope for the direction this story is taking. The thing with Flashpoint retconning Barry Allen's history and like having his mother be killed and his father convicted for the murder, even though it was Reverse Flash that did it, was like a really controversial decision. And my buddy Steve mentioned that like it's really dumb because Barry Allen was one of the few superheroes who was motivated purely out of just wanting to be a good person, wanting to do the right thing, be a superhero because it's a good thing to do. No tragedy in his past at all, really. And I'm kind of sympathetic to that because in the years since Flash Rebirth, where that retcon was introduced, there's been varying degrees of interesting things done with it, but really all we've done is just write Barry Allen to be Wally West with the kind of sort of Batman origin story. And I just it has gotten kind of old. So when the scene opens up with young Barry Allen saying he just wants to be a good person, he just wants to be a hero because it's the right thing to do, I'm kind of there for it. I kind of like that, and it gives me a lot of hope for the story arc. But then, pretty much everything after that well, not bad. It's just kind of Like, okay, so we see Barry be a CSI, and we see he's interacting with Iris, and we see that he gets struck by lightning. And I'll give it credit, that happens really early on in the issue. I was expecting that to be like the end of issue 1 or something. And then I'll also give it credit, he's up a page later. And he's out of the hospital and using his powers within a page. And he's kind of figuring it out within 2 to 3 pages. And it just cuts to this kind of, you've seen it in every superhero movie, this montage of figuring out how to use the powers. And I like this motif of the sneakers just piling up in the corner. And I really can't help but feel like this is just going to be our Flash movie. Because it really does feel like it's just Joshua Williamson giving the basics for a Flash movie. However, again, credit where it's due. Barry's being very methodical, very, very scientific in how he's analyzing these powers. Like he finds a car in a junkyard and uses his super speed to put it back together. And then he's like, this would be cooler if I had a driver's license. And he's like, all right, well, if I can process information at super speed, then I should be able to become the smartest person alive and read every book in the library. Like Barry Allen, smartest man alive. Or not? It's dangerous, these powers. Could they hurt me? Others? My brain loses the information just as fast as I read it. Which has always been like, that is low-key, I think, my favorite Flash power. That he has the ability to instantly absorb information, but he loses it just as quickly. So, like, he can go to the library and read every book in the building on civil engineering and bridge construction, use that information to, in seconds, build a bridge that is perfectly stable and works, and then as soon as he's done, as soon as he stops, forgets it all. I like that. That is probably one of my favorite Flash powers. So like that's kind of a cool way of approaching it and showing it off, and like again, this motif of the sneakers building up is a fun idea. And then he's like, all right, so how fast can I go? And he starts running, and then the biggest problem he's having is not running, but it's stopping. And then so he tries his fastest speed, and then he tries to slow down and stop, and he falls on his ass. And finds himself in a tyrannical future ruled by the turtle, and he's about to be attacked by the fascist, police. When he's saved by a whoosh of red light, and the light says, "Barry, you shouldn't be here." When are we gonna learn how dangerous time travel is? And then there's like old Flash, and I'm like, I can't help but kind of to give it some credit for that. So like this book has a pretty good opening, kind of a bland middle with some ups, and I can't lie, I really dig that ending. Barry Allen in time travel tends to just make me roll my fucking eyes. But that's a great ending. Like, that is... When you read Flash Year 1, you are, like, tell me you are not expecting for Barry Allen to be struck by lightning to be the conclusion of the first issue. And then to have it be future Barry Allen saves himself from evil villains, demented fascist guards. I mean, I can't hold that against it. That's pretty damn good. I got a kick out of it. If nothing else, I got a kick out of it. So yeah. It's got a really good cover by Howard Porter. How many issues is this supposed to be? Like, that's my question. Hold on, let's find this out. How many issues is Flash Year 1 gonna be? No answer for me. New origin story for Barry Allen. Now, like, this can be all kinds of craziness. All these things. I'm just trying to figure out how many issues. Man, this is like, it's so hard to just get a quick answer on this shit. Does anyone know in the comments? Anyone help me out on that one? God, they posted nearly the whole fucking book in this ad, in this one article. Jesus, it's like halfway through. Flash number 70. Yeah, I know it starts in number 70. How many issues is it going to be? This is ridiculous. I can't get a straight answer. I give up. Flash Year 1 story arc announced. I give up, and then I find the thing I needed. Does it give me an issue range? Next year, Flash Year 1 will be taking place in the regular Flash series, just like Batman Year 1 was in the Batman series. So excited to be working on this Stroud report on this story. Okay. It seems like an odd time to do an origin, by the way. 70 issues into the series? That's so strange. Yeah, I'm just getting that it's a story arc. I'm sure somewhere has the number of issues that it'll be. If I was smart, I'd probably look into the solicitations. Okay. Batman Year 1, 4 issues. This is DC Rebirth, so 8? I don't know. I've been off and on the Flash book ever since Rebirth started, and like since the button, basically. I'm gonna give it 4. I'm gonna do it again, Joshua Williamson. I'm gonna give you 4 issues on this because I can't lie. Sometimes you do it for me. Maybe I need to start reading Joshua Williamson's Flash run in trades. Maybe it works better in trade, and I wouldn't have such a hard time enjoying it. You know, I got the DC app on my phone now. I could probably start reading the run on there, and maybe I'd enjoy it more. Because I'm so hit and miss with this. But if I'm not waiting a month between issues, maybe I'd get more of a kick out of it. Okay. So that does it for single issues. Let's go ahead and go on to Trade Talk. Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Trade Talk, and this week I'm talking about Super Sons, the Polarshield Project, Book 1. Or Super Sons Book 1, the Polarshield Project, whatever. This is part of the DC Zoom imprint, which is more of like a middle or young grade graphic novel series that they're trying to do. You know, trying to reach those young readers, and I do really appreciate that. I specifically decided to talk about this week because this is the first new comic day after Free Comic Book Day, and I read a bunch of the free comics DC put out that are also part of the Zoom imprint, and Zoom and DC Ink imprint. You know, they're branching out, trying to catch more young readers. But this is something I bought like the week it came out because I love me some Super Sons, and I was excited to see, hey, Super Sons graphic novel, that's cool. But this book has also gotten a fair bit of controversy. Hold it up on the cover there. So you see Damian Wayne there. He's got, darker skin color. That was actually a late stage change because apparently no one working on the book knew that Damian isn't white, that he is mixed race. He's Asian, Middle Eastern. The Al Ghuls are from a made-up people that Ra's al Ghul genocided. So, like, his exact racial makeup is a bit questionable. But yeah, he's supposed to be like Asian or East Asian kind of thing. And so, like, no one working on the book apparently knew that Damian wasn't white. And so that stirred up a lot of controversy, so they went back and they changed it. But also, this is, like, completely its own standalone thing. This has, like, very much has nothing to do with any DC continuity. Let me find the note here at the beginning. Dear reader, like my characters, I come from a different world. The DC Comics universe was new to me when I was asked to write Super Sons. DC Comics was good enough to encourage me to write my version of the sons of Batman and Superman. For those familiar with these characters, you will meet a different Jonathan Kent and Damian Wayne in these pages. You will also meet a young woman named Candace, who is a long way from home. Her past will soon catch up with her. This is a story about fathers and sons, mothers and daughters, friends, enemies, competitors, school, adventure. They are in a world of climate change, flooding, and global disaster. In these stories, our characters will literally sink or swim. Most of all, they will explore themselves, their families, their enemies, and a world I've built for them to live in. Welcome to the country of Columbia, the continent of Landis, the destruction of Metropolis, a world of strange powers, the world of the Super Sons, my world. And now, one I'm sharing with you. Come along with me for a wild ride. Signed, Ridley Pearson. Okay. So that's the other thing I want to talk about. Despite the controversy, despite the continuity, despite the seeming lack of understanding of the core characters, Ridley Pearson, Super Sons, a graphic novel. Art by Gonzalez. Like, seriously, like, just, I wish I had my rulers and stuff still. So I got, like, Ridley, let me see, my thumb does a good job covering up. Ridley Pearson. Gonzalez, yeah, just barely. That's a lot of page room, and obviously DC apparently sought him out to write this. And does it? It doesn't say it on here, does it? Yeah, no. Wait, no. Nope. Okay, this is Ridley's first comic book, graphic novel, whatever you want to call it. And it shows. Like, seriously, I will fully admit, yeah, I'm a Super Sons fan. I'm a comic book guy through and through. I love John Kent and Damian Wayne in the comics. They're great. Would I have preferred those versions of the characters to be translated here, even if they were being written by someone else? Sure. That is not even the beginning of the problem with this book. Like, again, it's a bit of a problem when you realize that no one working on the book didn't know Damian wasn't white. But also, I can always tell when a novelist is writing a comic book, especially if it's their first time. There are so many format problems with this that just make it so confusing. There is a real sense that the script was not thinking about guiding you through a page or through a transition of scenes. Things just happen. Locations just change on a whim, and we're supposed to be ready for it, and really, we ain't. We ain't even kind of ready for it. Things just happen in a flash. One of the things that drives me crazy is I have a very hard time telling whose thought balloons I'm supposed to be reading throughout this book. It's a little easy in the beginning when all we're getting is Damien's and John's. But then, by the time you get to the end and we've introduced their two friends who are both girls, we're getting their thoughts as well. And so you've got 4 thought balloons that you, or thought boxes that you have to follow that literally, they have, the only difference between them is the coloring, and like Damien and John's are easy enough to differentiate, but Cadence and whatever this other girl, the blonde girl's name is, Tilly, they're both just yellow. They're just different shades of yellow, and I'm like, why? It's so strange, and again, so you got just really poorly thought out things of it's so easy in a novel to say Tilly thought da-da-da-da-da, and you don't lose anything. But when you have to graphically communicate that to the reader, and we're already keeping up with 3 other characters' internal monologues, and the only way to really communicate whose is who is to, I guess, show it with color or a symbol or something, but you can't give obviously you can give John a Superman symbol, you can give Damien a bat symbol, but you can't give Tilly and Cadence a symbol, so you have to just use color, and it just gets confusing. Admittedly, I don't know why they didn't just give Tilly like a green or Cadence like a brown or something, but just, it's confusing. It's so hard to track. It's just a really poorly formatted thing, because the writer clearly isn't thinking visually. He's very clearly writing for a page, not for art. And things just come off as really just not well thought out. You couple that with the fact that Damien feels not like a co-star here. Damien gets very little character development. This is mainly John's book, which is fine, but it's called Super Sons. And that's troublesome. So we have a version of John Kent and a version of Damian Wayne that really aren't much at all like, I guess John's a little closer, but still, that aren't much at all like their comic book counterparts. And Damien's just bizarre. He's generic rich boy in this, unfortunately. He doesn't have the League of Assassins background. He is just Bruce Wayne's kid, and he's got this chaperone / kind of Alfred fill-in character that's like Bruce's assistant or something, and she spends more time with him than Bruce, which is okay. So Damien doesn't have that smug I'm Batman 2.0 attitude to him. But he wants to go out and be Robin, but he doesn't actually have a Robin costume, and there's just, I don't know, it's meant to be simpler, and somehow it's more confusing. I guess I don't have the ground to make that claim, because I'm coming at this as a comic book fan, but just Damien being this child raised as a weapon from Batman's past, it's not only more compelling than just making him random rich kid who's Batman's son, but okay, you just can't help but start to ask questions. All right, so he's Batman's son, but he hasn't been trained as Robin, but he wants to be Robin. Why now? Like, what is it about the circumstances that happen in this story that mean now he's going out and acting as Robin? Because there's a scene pretty early on where Batman's trying to stop some terrorists from destroying a seawall, and Damian shows up and starts fighting with them, and Bruce stops him. And Damian comes in like a fucking hoodie and glasses, so obviously he's not had any training in this stuff. Bruce stops him, he's like, okay, get out of here. I'm Batman, you're not. What are you doing here? Go home, it's not safe. Did you hear me? But Patience, air support for 2. Patience is the name of the assistant. Let's go, follow me. All I wanted was to be his wingman. Okay, take my hand. No way, I'm not 7, you know. It's now or never. Your choice. This is how I always dreamed it would be. What? Running away? What? Like, I don't get it. Batman withdraws from the fight because he's trying to make sure Damian doesn't get hurt. This is how I always dreamed it would be? Take my hand, I guess? But, like, it's totally inconsistent with the scene. There's just a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff here that I just don't get. And it's unfortunate. Also, Damian doesn't want to be called Damian. He wants to be called Ian, and I appreciate the attempt at flattery, but you know, I no. Like, that's okay, Damian Wayne. I'm trying to think how to say this. On a level, when we're talking in broad strokes about characterization, there are no rules for what makes an interpretation of a character that character or not. The rules are probably just that they have to say they're that character. I am not rich. My parents were not killed in an alley in front of me when I was 8. I have no special training. I am not particularly physically fit. I am not the world's greatest detective. But if I say I'm Batman, there's nothing you can really do to say I'm not. If I say, yeah, I'm Batman, that's just me as a character. You can't definitively prove me wrong. That caveat being said, there still exists a general narrative of some level of consistency about what makes this character Batman. So yeah, if you were to write a comic book about Ian, Sid Part 2, and call it Batman, there'd be a lot of fans out there who's like, this is not a Batman book. This is a book about a guy who talks about comics and nerdy shit online. So yeah, Ridley Pearson is making his version of Damian Wayne, but this kid's like, the only thing this kid has in common with Damian Wayne is that he's Batman's son? Don't call me Damian. I hate that name. Call me Ian. Damian's too proud for that bullshit. Damian loves that his name is Damian. You know, like, that specifically, I don't know, but, like, I just can't imagine any version of Damian Wayne that would have shame on that level, you know? And that's what it is. I hate that name. Call me Ian. I don't know about that, Damian. So he's not a weapon. He's not... It's taking the part that's charming about Damian, his smug little shit attitude. It's neutering him in a way, and that's just disappointing. It just makes it like that's the thing that makes the dynamic of the Super Sons so cool. It's not it's Batman's kid and Superman's kid. It's this smug little shit that's like everything that's kind of cool but also kind of wrong with Batman. And it's this youthful, bright, optimistic, exuberant, all those qualities that are kind of cheesy but super low-key cool about Superman. And it's putting them together and seeing that just instant chemistry. That instant, yes! This is fun. This is what kids are like. So when you strip Damian's pride and his kind of little shit attitude away, and you make John Kent a bit more realistic, a bit more down to earth, and more just like practical, you don't really have the Super Sons. So yeah, these are Ridley Pearson's versions of the Super Sons, and I guess his take on John is a little bit closer to the comics than his take on Damian. But I'm left in a place here where I'm like, this book has no charm on character basis, even ignoring the comic book stuff. I feel the characters are relatively flat and kind of uninteresting. Its plot, a gang is trying to stop something. They're like giving people diseases for reasons. Lois Lane spends the better part of the book in a coma from some random disease she caught. Oh, I will give it some credit for something in regards to that in a second. Superman's out in space. Batman's fucking God knows where in this book. For some reason, we're in a fake country. Why? Like, it's already got Metropolis in it. Why is it not just America? I don't get that. Especially since the commentary here is supposed to be on climate change, and it's like they almost forget to get around to it. Besides, like, I'll take that back, actually. They do quite a bit with the climate change stuff. Like, the whole book opens with the seawall collapsing and Superman having to stop it, and like that the flooding of Metropolis causing so many people to have to move, and there's like kind of racism against or classism, I guess, against the people that have moved inland, and they call them flood runners, and that's kind of interesting. I'll take it back. The political stuff is there. Just had to think about it for a sec. It's there. It's a little forgettable. So you got poorly formatted because this guy's never written a comic before. You've got kind of flatter takes on the characters. Again, I will give some credit where it's due. John Kent is very much Lois's kid in here, which I quite appreciated, because, like I said, she's in a coma due to illness for a good chunk of the book. And so John Kent starts doing investigative journalism to try to figure out what happened to his mom, because it seems connected to these cases of illnesses all over the city. That was kind of cool. Kind of appreciate that. Oddly enough, it's like the crux of the villain arc of the whole book, and not that much comes from it, if you can believe that. So yeah, obviously I really didn't appreciate this very much. I didn't quite enjoy it. trying to think what I have to say about the art. I think the art is good. Again, it's very serviceable. It's very fitting for the tone of the story. What's the artist's bio in here? Okay, skipped right over it. Gonzalez illustrated her first comic strip while in kindergarten, and she grew up to study fashion design in college. Deciding graphic storytelling was her first true love, she refocused her creative efforts and landed her first paid work at the digital storytelling company Madefire, working exclusively for them and co-creating their popular middle grade series, The Heroes Club. So she's apparently done art for like this kind of market before, which is probably a good choice. Though I can't help but feel like if you're going to put a first-time comic writer with a established comic artist, you probably should have gotten an artist who's a bit more demanding and maybe just more of like a consummate professional in the field that's like, no, this is how we do this. This scene change is garbage, rewrite it. Like an artist willing to kind of butt heads a bit. And I feel like the art is fine. The formatting issues seem to come almost entirely from the script. And I feel like an artist with a stronger voice who didn't get bottom billing on a book would probably have been able to kind of ring some ears on that one, and maybe some of those problems would fade away. That's maybe unfair. I don't mean to throw shade at the artist. The art is definitely probably the best thing about the book, and that's not because I'm a huge fan of the art. Again, I think the art is just fine. I like this scene where Damien goes to save John Kent and starts like chucking baseballs with nails in them at people. That was kind of cool. Yeah. I think that's it. Again, I not into it, would not recommend. There's a book 2 coming out, and part of me kind of wants to buy it just to support young Super Sons, and in the hopes that maybe if that gets more popular, we'll go back to that in the comics, since I'm afraid we're not going to. But I can't deal with this. It's just not good. It's not something I enjoy at all. Alright, I'm done. Everyone, thanks for coming for Trade Talk. If you read this, let me know what you think. I'm curious what the general consensus is from people on this one. If you read this, leave a comment. Let me know what you think. But I think I'm done. Have a good night. Have a good day. Have a good whatever time of day it is, wherever you are.